there's some bad apples out there, but you need to understand that the same reason for the lawyer jokes existing is why you want a lawyer in the first place. You want somebody that, regardless of what happened, is going to have your back. That's what a lawyer does. There's no other, I can't think of another profession that has it like that, right? No matter what you did, you hire me, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Let's go. We got your back.
And welcome to an episode of the Bandit Room. My name is Charles. I'm joined here in the studio today by Mr. Caleb.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Yeah, I missed you on that last one.
Yeah.
I was terrified the whole time. I was like nervous holding
It's a hard job to sit over here and not talk, and it's even harder to have to run it and host the show. So.
And across the table, we have another returning guest. I don't know, might as well call him a co-host at this point, as Jason Ackerman.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome back.
As always.
Welcome back. You're showing us up. You're here more often than Caleb is now. And our official guest of this particular show across the table from me is Mr. Brian Murphy. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, you are the owner of the law offices of Brian Robert Murphy, LLC. You have offices in Rock Hill, Fort Mill, Greenville, and Charleston. Is that right?
Right.
You're all over the place. How do you
Keep
divide
busy.
your time?
You schedule it out.
Yeah, you
Very
schedule it
carefully.
out.
You schedule it out, and you make sure you got enough time to meet with clients to get there, and you just careful scheduling.
Gotcha. But you're based in Rock Hill, right? That's kind of your
big
home office.
home office.
What's the deal with the name? You have to have your name in the law offices. Is that a legal? Is that a state thing?
Do you have to?
It's better.
Mhm.
So
They all have
you
names.
can get more creative, but the more creative you get, the more likelihood that you're going to run afoul of some legal ethics marketing rules.
You had the perfect name for calling it Murphy's Law.
I get inquiries on.
Yeah, you think
People are searching for that and finding my website. There's nothing on Murphy's Law.
tons
Yeah,
of
I mean, you do personal injury. Murphy's
things
Law.
go
I
wrong-
mean, this literally writes itself.
It is personal, but it's everything, right? Okay, Murphy's Law would be pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So you get strange inquiries.
Yeah.
I'm like just realizing that in the moment.
I did have somebody call me one time, and he was upset about something.
Uh-huh.
I said, "I'm sorry, I couldn't help you," right? And got angry about that.
Yeah.
Because the reason I couldn't help him was because the law was against this individual.
Mm-hmm.
And he got really upset at me and started yelling at me. I'm like, "Sir, why are you yelling at me?" "Well, you're a lawyer. Make the law."
So you're not making the laws. Okay, so let's talk a little about yourself. So where'd you grow up? You were just saying you're from the area. You grew up in Fort Mill?
Yeah, I grew up in Fort Mill. I
Gotcha.
feel like a unicorn now because nobody's from Fort Mill anymore.
Nobody's from Rock Hill anymore. Like
You got 2 Fort Mill
everybody's-
High graduates, I think.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Fighting
right.
Yellow
There we
Jackets,
go.
baby. We were there back when there was only one high school in Fort Mill.
Shout out.
One high school, one middle school, one elementary school.
Quaint.
Couple of traffic lights.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you could drive all the way. This is great for our listeners
Yeah.
not from here, but you could drive from T to K to Fort Mill and there was no light.
Yeah, but you didn't.
Yeah,
was
you never
really far
would.
from
You
Fort
never
Mill.
would. But if you,
Why would you?
See a couple friends. That's about it.
yeah.
There was nothing else out there. Now,
You board the ferry to cross the river and stuff?
yeah, I got everything.
You had to take the horse and buggy.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Uphill both ways.
Before they had the bridge.
In the snow.
And beyond that, where'd you go to school?
Yeah, so I stayed in town, went to Winthrop for
Okay.
undergrad.
Gotcha.
I enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
They're tearing down Richardson and Wofford.
Yes.
Never stayed there, so I'm okay with
So
it.
you're okay with it?
Everybody's really excited about that on Facebook. I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, never stayed there, so I'm okay. I don't have a brick."
Yeah, I saw people were taking the bricks. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I went to Winthrop, studied. I started out in music, interestingly
Okay.
enough.
Okay. Interesting.
And, switched over to business.
When did you make that switch? Was that in your undergrad?
When I realized I wasn't as good as some of my peers. Like,
What
what
part of-
am I going to do here?
Hey, what'd you
What-
play?
What part of music
Trombone.
did you specialize
Oh,
in?
yeah, you did.
Yeah, I played trombone.
Trombone.
Specialized in trombone.
Specialized in trombone. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to teach.
Yeah.
I wasn't a
at that
performance
point,
major.
yeah. Did you go into college think like, I like this, I'm going to pursue this?
I think so.
And then you didn't kind of have the whole, like, once you started thinking, like, what am I going to do after this?
Right.
You start
What do you-
asking
you know,
these questions, and then you're,
and just realizing that I was good,
Mm-hmm.
but wasn't that good.
yeah. Do you still play?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. After I switched.
Well, once you get
majors-
married, I mean, ladies like the trombone. You're married now. I mean, why play?
I was in a band, some of that. Rock Hill Band.
Yeah, there you go.
That was fun. Played in downtown Rock Hill a lot.
Okay. Marching band? Wait,
No, it was like a New Orleans brass
Oh,
band.
nice.
Yeah.
You did the Blues Fest?
No, it was
Okay.
just a bar
Gotcha.
downtown Rock Hill that we would play at occasionally. A lot of
McHale's?
fun. No, it
No,
was before
different.
McHale's.
Before McHale's.
What was before McHale's?
This is before my time.
Was Rock Hill covered? Was the
No, it wasn't.
It was
downtown
not covered.
It was. Rock
Yeah.
Hill was covered at some
Yeah.
point.
For what it's worth? Was that down there?
I don't know.
think
I
that's
did.
what
Yeah,
it's
4 Mill people didn't go to Rock Hill. I'm surprised you even went there.
It was in college.
Yeah, makes sense.
Fort Mill people. And then after undergrad, graduate school?
Yeah, no, I didn't go straight. I worked for a little bit, worked for about
Okay.
3 years, doing software development, database administration.
Oh, where?
It's a small company in Matthews called Kaleidos Systems.
Okay.
And they had a couple of online service applications back what it was called there.
Interesting.
back
So what
then.
kind of products were you working on?
Mostly scheduling products. So
Okay.
they worked in the home healthcare
This might be a
industry.
job application for you. You come work at Span.
So, like, what kind of products have you worked on?
After that, I didn't tell anybody I knew anything about a computer. Because if somebody finds out that you're a programmer or database administrator, then you're over at their house,
You're like,
right?
Well, that
fixing
explains
it.
why you're good at Zero, at the accounting system.
Love Zero.
Yeah,
That's
it's
fantastic.
all coming together now.
Yeah. So I did that for 3 years and then went to law school.
Okay, interesting. What caused the interest in shooting for law school next?
So I think there was a couple things. One was lawyers, you can set up a small business
Mm-hmm.
pretty much anywhere. And you,
It's a skill you could transfer anywhere. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, location is okay. You
Right.
can start your own business.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was working in small business has always been one of my passions. I don't want to say passion, but working. I've always worked in small business.
Yeah.
It's been just an interest of mine. So from growing up here in Fort Mill and Rock Hill, working at Unique Visions, which is still around, Sound on Wheels, which is
Mhm.
still around, it's always been small business.
Mhm.
So knowing that I would probably want to own a small business and a law firm sounded like to me a pretty good business to own at that time.
Yeah.
So that was one of it, and the other one was just seeing how far I could excel, how far I
Mhm.
could push myself.
Yeah.
That was either going to be business school or law school, and I got into law school.
Okay. Fantastic. And when did you start your firm?
Started my firm in 2010.
Okay.
It's gone through a couple of iterations. I've been with some different partners, different organizations,
Okay.
but always had my firm as the base of that.
Did you go straight into law on your own, or did you work at other firms before starting your own?
I worked at another firm. This was actually down in Beaufort. We lived
Mhm.
my wife and I lived in Beaufort
Oh,
for
nice.
a season.
That's cool.
And then when I started my own firm, moved back up here, back home.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. And what areas of law do you typically work?
Well, right now,
yeah.
I-
Or before. What did you start with, and what did you land with?
when I started, I did what they call what you got law.
Okay.
So, at the beginning, when you're new and you're on your own, you're a solo, you tend to do what walks through the door.
Mhm.
So when somebody walks through the door, what do you practice? Well,
Yeah.
what you got?
Yeah.
That's what law practice. So it was a
What's
lot
your
of
problem?
different ones. You would practice in the magistrate's court. I would do family law, just a lot of different areas at the beginning, and I ended up settling on personal injury, which is what I focus on today.
That's kind of most of your business is personal injury, or you get other kind of.
No, it's all.
random requests? It's
I
all pretty much
really
personal
limit my
injury.
business
Yeah.
to personal injury today.
Gotcha.
With the looking out towards some other practice areas in the future, but right now it's personal injury.
Nice. You often think of massive advertising campaigns that law firms often do. How do you kind of run that kind of operation for a smaller firm?
You don't.
You don't.
No,
So
I mean
where
you're
do-
talking
where do most
about
of your clients come from?
Yeah, you're talking about the TV guys.
Yeah, sure, the TV guys,
Yeah.
billboards.
Didn't you have
I
a
mean,
TV ad?
I did.
Yeah.
I tried it. You have no clue how much money it takes
Yeah.
to do TV advertising. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys are spending so much money.
Right.
You think about the big guys; they are
Yeah.
spending so much money that it's really hard to keep up. And once you
Yeah.
get it going, you can keep it going. But,
Right.
they're just spending so much money. So I focus on
kind of word of mouth, SEO kind of stuff.
Referrals, SEO. So internet is a good source. Anything Google, right?
Yeah.
And then of course referrals. I grew up here. I know people in Fort Mill, Rock Hill, and just connecting with those referral sources and making sure that they know I'm still here.
Cool. Do you have other attorneys on your team, or is it?
Primarily me. I have a couple other attorneys that kind of on an as-needed basis when I have a case that they work with me, but primarily it's me.
What are some major areas that you've seen the industry change over your time in the legal field?
Let's go back to my tech background, right? So it's not uncommon for attorneys to spend, or their staff, a good amount, a certain percentage of their time per day looking for documents, looking for this, looking for that. So when I came out and started my own firm, I knew that I wanted to be as digital as possible. So implementing those systems to become fairly digitally based from the beginning. That, but really since the pandemic, that change to digital based documents has exploded, and everybody who wasn't primarily digital really had to go primarily digital, and that probably accelerated the growth of digital documents in law firms, courts by a decade over the 2 years of the pandemic.
That's interesting how that you could almost look at any field, and any field was kind of in that similar kind of situation where if you weren't already making these kind of adaptations as a company to a more digital standard, then you were either forced to, or you're going to be overwhelmed and go out of business, essentially.
I don't know how certain people did it during the pandemic.
Right.
So during the pandemic, we shut down the office pretty early on.
Yeah.
But we really didn't skip a beat because everything was already digital. We had the systems and processes in place that I was confident the entire client file was where I needed it when I needed it when I was from home.
Right.
We might have had one person in the office just to make sure that the mail was coming in and getting scanned properly. Certain things, checks were, somebody had to go into the office to make sure that the checks were cut. Yeah. But pretty much my team went home. Once we made the call to go home, we were able to transition to home-based work really quickly and almost seamlessly, where I think other law firms that were dependent on paper files, that would have been a lot more difficult.
Yeah, you're either not able to make that transition, or you have a really bad scramble. Wouldn't want to be in that situation.
There's an amazing level of efficiency even before the pandemic. You don't have to search for files. You don't have to go to a file room.
Yeah.
You don't have to maintain as many files.
Yeah.
So that digital transformation from when I started to now has been pretty huge.
Yeah.
What about lawyers loving checks? You guys love checks.
Love what?
Checks.
Checks?
Yeah.
It is, as opposed to...
We have ACH now. We have other ways of paying people other than checks.
We do love checks. And we love checks for the paper trail.
Yeah.
So we have a document. We get a canceled check. We can see it online. We got a picture of it. We love that. This
sounds like a product idea for us.
We love the paper trail. We love having that. Lawyers love paper.
Because when you pay out your clients, you send a check to yourself, you send a check to the client, you might send a check to reimburse somebody.
Yeah, lien holders, medical providers. We love checks. You're right. We have. I don't know that we'll get away from a paper check, but
we need some software that can get lawyers comfortable with the paper trail.
Well,
the digital paper trail.
A lot of that can come from products like Xero, right?
Yeah.
If you keep it up well.
Yeah.
But one of the challenges is making sure that you have the time and space to be able to keep up with that.
Yeah.
If you don't and you get behind, then it makes it more onerous to try to catch up. So that's probably why we like checks. It's just lawyers like precedents, right?
Because what do they do because they have lawyers in Australia. And Australia doesn't have checks at all. What do they do there?
I've never practiced law in Australia.
I've
field trip. I've never visited Australia. So
figure it out.
That's going to be my mission.
Is getting rid of checks for
well, just getting checks are just we don't need to go on the check route, but where the U.S. is way behind. Most countries don't deal with checks anymore.
Well, the law is behind as well. Like if you think about any technology improvement, the law is going to be behind that because lawyers rely on case law, they rely on ethics opinions, they rely on what other
and the
what others are
government.
doing.
You're dealing with the government. It's the same with us accountants. Like we're dealing with the IRS, and they're still have JFK administrated, servers from the JFK administration. So
it takes time. We like to rely on that press. Checks are familiar, they're comfortable. We know that we're not going to get in trouble, with our trust accounts by using checks. So we use checks.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the field of personal injury. Can you talk a little bit about the benefit of having a good personal injury attorney on your side? I think a lot of people have the potential to get a negative opinion of personal injury lawsuits because of the ones that sort of make big headlines, somebody suing McDonald's because they spilled their coffee or something like that.
I'm glad you brought up that case.
Hey, let's talk about it. Let's talk about misconceptions.
Brian, that was his case.
No, I'm tell us about it. I can't believe I didn't do any research on this.
No, that was not my case. Oh, okay. Yeah, the interesting thing, there's actually a Netflix documentary about the McDonald's case. And the more interesting question, I think, is why do you know about the case? Okay? Because the case facts are that this lady did spill a cup of coffee and the cap wasn't on.
Yeah.
Or she was adjusting the cap.
Right.
And it caused third-degree burns in her genital area.
Gotcha.
Now, you think about that.
And it was actually third-degree burn.
Second third-degree burns.
Wow.
You think about that for a minute. What temperature would cause a third-degree burn after it's hit clothes?
Yeah.
Right, on skin. And it's got to be really hot. And if you look at the case, you'll find out that McDonald's kept it that hot. They testified to it in court. Kept it that hot because they would provide, and it was above coffee is regulated. The temperature of coffee was regulated. It was supposed to be cooler.
Gotcha.
But they would do that, or at least there was some testimony there that they would keep it that hot because then they're giving less refills because you can't drink that much coffee while you're sitting there eating your biscuit.
Always goes back to money.
It does go back to, and so if you think about it, that's why it's a huge amount of money. Most people are thinking, golly, so I could spill a cup of coffee on myself and get that much money. But do you really want third-degree burns on your genital area to get that?
To get that.
And you find out, well, then, okay, if the facts were so bad and the jury decided that that was enough to award punitive damages or punishing damages, then why do I know about it? And the reason that you know about it is because there's a marketing group out there that represents big companies, big insurers, and they put out press releases to all the radio stations, stuff like that, to get it into the news cycle.
Yeah.
All right? And they limited the facts. You don't hear about these third-degree burns. You don't hear that the jury did tell the plaintiff, oh, okay, well, you were somewhat responsible, so reduce the award in response. You don't hear about all that. You just hear about this wild number of somebody spilling coffee on themselves.
Right.
It's a marketing effort because it's a marketing organization, and they did that to make sure, to put lawyers, plaintiffs in negative light so that when all of us as jurors go into the jury box, we have that already preconceived notion even before this particular case starts. So that's why you know about the case.
That's true.
And by the way, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's true. Now that you bring it up, I remember actually those details, but like for some reason the initial thought when I thought of frivolous case, that's what came to my head because that's the messaging that was sort of around it at the time.
It was a marketing effort.
Yeah. So so let's talk about the big benefit of having a good personal injury attorney.
Not you, but like a good,
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what he's trying to say.
No. So we need to find another guest.
No. Answer the question.
I think most people don't understand the law and how the law works and how insurance comes together and how insurance works. For instance, you know that if somebody hits you and you have medical bills, that the other person is responsible for at least the medical bills, maybe something more. That's what people come in thinking generally. But how does that work with the person who hit them, the at-fault insurance company? Mm-hmm. How does it work with your own insurance company? And how does it work with your health insurance? Mm. And piecing all those together, most people don't understand how it works. That's the main thing, really knowing the law, really knowing insurance, and making it so that the client comes out the best that they possibly can. Because let's just be honest. We hear about, there was a crash, they're going to get some money. Mm-hmm. But if you've ever been in a crash, you know you're just going down the road someday. You're going to visit family, you're going to work, you're going in from a run, you're coming in from Hunting Island State Park, like mine when I got hit from behind. And it's just a random day and you get slammed.
Yep.
Now, even though you have a family dinner to get to, now you got to go to the hospital. Now you got to deal with injuries. Now you've got to deal with, I don't have a car. How am I going to get anywhere? How am I going to go to work? Do I need to take time off of work? How am I going to get that wage loss repaid? Mm-hmm. So all of that comes together, and most people just simply don't know enough about the law, don't know how it works to get the best benefit for them at the end of the day. The other part of this is emotion. Mm. And when people are too close to a case or too close to an incident, it tends to become emotional. Mm. And so a lot of times people don't think clearly in those circumstances, and it helps to have an advocate, a friend, to talk through that and understand what the best outcomes are.
Do you see a particular area where people are underutilizing attorneys in situations, or people are just kind of letting things go where they should be, going to an attorney for advice on certain situations?
I think the biggest thing is on trust, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's all kind of lawyer jokes out there with the butt of it being trust, right? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, a lawyer is an advocate for who their client is. If you're dealing directly with an insurance company, you have no right to trust in that interaction. No right to trust. You don't know if that insurance company or adjuster is treating you right, wrong, or indifferent. Ultimately, when you have an attorney, you know that you have somebody that you can trust who is advising you properly and knows the law and how to get the best outcome for you.
Yeah, and like Brian, you deal with these cases all the time. You deal with insurance all the time. If I get an accident one time, how am I going to know how to deal with the insurance?
Yeah, statistically, it's once every 20 years.
Yeah, it's like you're dealing with it all the time. Like you that's the value you're providing, the expertise. Like you know how to deal with these people, and
it's when I call you for a tax question or a book or an accounting question.
Yeah,
I
deal with that all the time
every day. I don't do that, so I wouldn't. I mean, I could look it up and spend 3 hours doing that, right?
Right.
Probably
maybe,
and probably get it wrong, right? But I got Jason, and he tells me.
Yeah, and that's where you're providing the value. You're gonna get, most likely you're gonna get more money. Like I would get more money if I hire you to help me on a personal injury case.
Yeah, even after attorney's fees.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a particular case that was particularly pivotal or changed the way you practice in any particular way? Can you talk about things like that?
Yeah, getting into case specifics is gets close to a line that you don't want to cross.
Gotcha.
I would say this with cases. It's not necessarily the one particular case or any one monumental case. Mm-hmm. It's as you are, when you start out, you've got a very limited amount of cases. Mm-hmm. And so you could provide fantastic client service. But what happens when your case count doubles? How do you provide that fantastic client service to all of your clients? Because when you need a lawyer, you probably aren't having a great day, right?
Right.
I can only think of a couple of occasions where you need to call a lawyer because you're having a great day. One would be the lottery, right?
Yeah.
You call your lawyer. Then you call your
you call your accountant first.
Yeah.
Then you call a lawyer.
Yeah. So that would be one where you're having a great day. But most of the time you're having a bad day.
That's true.
And that bad day, typically you're thinking about what are the consequences of this event. When you think about the future consequences of event, that's probably going to generate some anxiety. Mm-hmm. And you need to talk to somebody to get your answers, to get your questions answered. Yeah. Because unanswered questions just They just fester, right? And when you have a message into your lawyer and you haven't heard from your lawyer for a while, that's only going to exacerbate that anxiety. So, but lawyers, right? We could be in court.
Yeah.
We could need 100% of our time fixated on one particular case for an extended amount of time.
Yeah.
So I think what I've learned is, how do you provide fantastic client service? How do you answer their questions even when you might not be available to be there? And so it's building those processes and systems and hiring the right people, the right paralegals, the right support staff to make sure that clients understand, one, the answers, or two, hey, Brian's in court right now, but he's going to call you at 2 o'clock tomorrow and you're going to get an answer to your question. That's going to help calm down that anxiety. So that's really the big thing, is how do you, anyone can provide fantastic service to one person if you only have one client. But how do you make all your clients feel like you only have one client?
Right.
And getting those processes and systems in place was pretty pivotal for my firm.
How do you choose a case? Like, how do you decide if you're going to
whether or
take
not
a
you're gonna
case?
take it.
Well, one, you need to see where the other party is the majority at fault, right? Because you can't take a case where your client, potential client, contributed to the majority of the harm. So one, you kind of look at, well, what happened? Who's at fault? Who's responsible? You also need to understand the value of your services, though, and if it's a case where attorneys' fees would be too much for that particular case, then you don't take that case, right? You don't want to put the client in a position where they feel like all they're doing is paying attorney's fees. So there's some indicators out there that say, okay, one is on fault, but two is, what would be the typical value of the case, and can I contribute to that value, or would I only take away from the value? So if a client calls up and says, hey, an insurance company offered me $15,000, I think the case is worth $10,000, I'm going to tell them, take the 15.
Yeah.
Don't hire me.
So that's really just a kind of a case by case on. Is that really more like guidelines for how you operate your firm? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think
like,
each
there's
firm
not
is
like
going to
a-
be different, right? So my firm might be a little bit different than another firm.
Right.
But yeah, each firm's going to have their different case selection criteria.
Hey, small business owners, are you ready for retirement? And do you have investment options to help you retain employees? You need Wealth Rabbit, a simple way to a simple IRA. It's an easy, do-it-yourself solution with no broker fees and no lawyer fees, easy onboarding, contribution tracking, and more.
What would you say is the biggest misconception people have about attorneys?
The biggest misconception that we
Right.
like, that we
Anything
like.
you want to set straight?
Let's see.
about
That we like lawyer jokes. Don't.
You don't.
Hey, did you hear this great lawyer? I don't care.
Does the joke revolve around somebody being dishonest or something like that?
It usually
That's
does.
typically the punchline.
But that's the thing about, if you understand lawyers, and now listen, there's some bad apples out there, right? We all learned that this summer, right? With the big trial in the Low Country, right? Alex Murdaugh. There's some bad apples out there, but you need to understand that the same reason for the lawyer jokes existing is why you want a lawyer in the first place. You want somebody that, regardless of what happened, is going to have your back. That's what a lawyer does. There's no other, I can't think of another profession that has it like that, right? That no matter what you did, you hire me, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Let's go. We got your back. So that's really where a lot of it goes. And there's some ethics about how you deal with third parties as well.
Yeah.
If you're representing one person, how do you deal with a third
Yeah.
party that's not represented?
Gotcha.
So.
Now, when you were referencing a client who didn't like that you weren't taking his case because you believed that he was in
Not
the
a
wrong.
client.
Oh, but
Not a
sorry,
client.
yes, somebody, a potential person who was wanting you to take their case. Now, when you say you didn't want to represent them because you thought the law was not on their side, are they not also entitled to an attorney though? Like, is that like?
Could be if it was a criminal matter. I don't remember I don't remember what kind of matter it was. I just remember getting yelled at and having a strange interaction there. But yes, entitled, and there's a difference between providing a defense and then I need you to accomplish a result that I can't accomplish. If I can't accomplish the result you're looking to accomplish, please don't hire me.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting that you said you wanted to like run a business. That's why you went into law.
Yeah.
Oh, why's that?
So what do you like? Because I don't think a lot of lawyers, that's their ultimate.
It's more like
goal.
I want to.
Like I want to practice law, but like you wanted to practice law, obviously, but you thought like, hey, I can run my own business.
Some people are just as happy to work as an attorney in a large office.
Yeah. What did you like about entrepreneurship and running your own business?
I like building something at the end of the day. Like, hey, I started off with nothing, and at the end of the day, I have something. I even like working in small business. So when I was at Sound on Wheels, we started a program where I would go out and try to get more business from dealerships. So there were certain things we could do with their cars. This was an audio company, still around, Sound on Wheels, up on Anderson Road in Rock Hill.
Okay.
Awesome place if you want a great car stereo system and other stuff. Starting there and developing those sales. I think developing things and building things was interesting to me. I always saw the law as even if you're in a big firm, you're still building your business.
Yeah.
Now maybe you don't have the accounting functions and the administrative functions, but you always have. You're always looking to develop your client base.
So what surprised you when you started your business, like that you didn't think you'd have to do?
Good question.
Thank you. That's why I'm here, baby.
What surprised me about?
I guess, you're like, hey, I want to run a business, but like you didn't know that you were going to have to do.
You didn't know you were going to spend so much time doing blank, or you didn't know it was going to have.
I think it's probably it can go down to the people management. I don't have any background with HR, and if you don't have that kind of background, you probably need to get some help with it because you need to develop your people. You need to figure out what are the best time off policies. When is a good start time? When is a good end time? When is a good lunch time? How are you going to build your people over time? How are you going to develop their salaries? How are you going to develop their benefits? How are you going to make sure that they stick around with you for a long time? And manage people. That was probably the biggest thing would be HR functions.
Yeah. And that was important to you. And how did you accomplish that?
So I had a good friend of mine, my best friend, and he came in and joined me for a season at the law firm.
Nice.
And he implemented a lot of these programs,
I
taught
love
me.
a season.
Season.
I'm going to incorporate that.
Yeah? It's good if you think about it, because right now you're also in a season that I'm not in anymore. Small children.
Oh, yeah.
That's a season.
God, that's that's a season.
And that season changes. And the thing is, when you're in a season, you tend to look forward to I can't wait till this kid can walk.
Yeah.
Or I can't wait till this kid is potty trained. Or I can't wait until, whatever it is. They're going to school and I get a raise from, you know how much daycare costs now?
Unfortunately.
My neighbors told me how much they were spending on daycare.
Yeah, I just cut off my right arm and said, have it. And then they asked for my left, and that was that.
It floored me.
I was going to ask you about that.
Daycare is
situation you got over there.
Podcast listeners can't see it. But
that's why this is audio.
I walked in completely armless.
You're like the knight. The
knight from
Monty
Python.
Oh, God, yeah. It's a flesh wound.
But yeah, so I think those seasons you're always looking forward to the next season.
Yeah.
Usually in the season, you're looking for the next one.
Yeah.
But the thing is, really enjoying that whatever particular season is in life. And so I guess that's why I refer it to a season, because it was a different.
I like
it was a different
it's
phase in the
language.
firm.
I like that.
Yeah, it's helpful.
So, but he implemented a lot of these systems. He worked in banking. And has worked on developing people, which is something that I sorely needed.
Yeah.
And so, review processes, raises, compensation, all that is what he helped me implement within the firm. And we still have a lot of those processes and systems, even though he's back into banking.
Gotcha. Nice. And what's the, can you talk about like the size of your team right now?
Size of my team is 4, including me. Like I said, I have another lawyer who helps out as needed. But it's primarily the 4 of us, and that's down from 8. I think 8 was at the largest.
Gotcha. All right. And you talk about kind of the importance to you of kind of maintaining people for an extended period of time, not having a high turnover, that kind of situation.
I like to train my staff on how I like to do business, how I like to work, and more importantly, how I like them to interact with my clients would be the most important thing. Yeah. So I mean, it's going to take a year to get fully trained on how we like to do things around here, and so you need to keep them.
Yeah, part of that.
So when
let's talk about the benefits.
Yeah, so when we were talking about setting up a retirement plan, like what went through your head? Like, why did you think it was a good idea?
I don't remember why we initially started talking. I guess it was about that time.
Tax.
My wife had one, but
we wanted some sort of tax deduction.
Yep, tax deduction would be important. The other one was, as a small business, it's really difficult to come up with benefits for your employees. The bigger you get, you got a lot more benefits that you can offer. Health insurance becomes easier. 401ks become easier. Variety of benefits just become, health savings accounts, whatever it is, become a lot easier because you have a lot of support staff. When you're a small business, a handful of employees, it gets a lot difficult, and you're probably looking at the person who needs to implement it as well, right? Administer whatever benefits that you are trying to implement. So I knew it was important. Retirement planning is important. I knew it was going to be, if it's important to me, it's going to be important to my employees. And so that was the primary consideration.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Is like we want to implement it, but also you're going to be the one implementing it, right? For the most part, like the small business. Right. So it needs to be easy for you to do. Like, we don't want it to be so complicated that you're spending all your time. You're not able to be a lawyer. You make money being a lawyer, not by administering a retirement plan.
No, you're not going to. Your time is really limited, right? Because the more time that you are not doing legal work.
Yeah, because if you're running the business, you're HR, your accountant, you're a retirement person, you're manager, you're wearing a lot of different hats for these businesses that we're serving, under Span Enterprises and Wealth Rabbit and Tax Bandits. Like, those are our people.
Yeah, small business.
And we're trying to develop solutions to help them.
But not only that, if you think about it, if you're wearing those hats, you're not wearing your revenue generating hat.
Yeah, and we want you. What I tell my clients, like, I want you. That's why you hire me. It's like, you shouldn't be doing accounting. You should be being a lawyer. You're gonna make a lot more money being a lawyer than you spending time doing accounting.
Yeah,
for the most part.
I mean, you got to maximize. If you're the only person or one of two in a small business that's generating revenue, you need to be generating revenue. You don't need to be spending a lot of excess time on administrative tasks.
So you need to find these different people and programs and software. Sometimes it's software. Sometimes it's like, Wealth Rabbit. Sometimes it's, you got to hire an accountant or a CPA. You got to hire a lawyer. Yeah. Potentially, like, don't draft up your own legal documents.
Please.
Like, let's hire a lawyer for that. Like, that you need a team.
Yeah.
You need even the small business, you need a team. Yeah. You need a software stack, you need a team.
Figuring out where to prioritize your time, that's one thing we focus on so much is, so much of business is learning when to say no to certain things, when you're going to have to say, like, that's not going to be worth it, where even if it's something that, could potentially be doing well, we've said we've closed down products that were working, but it wasn't worth our time to keep it up, just because there's a greater opportunity somewhere else. And so,
so with the simple,
with this.
What did you like about it?
Well, I liked one. It's the amount that an individual can defer or save is greater than a traditional IRA, right? So it gets you more than.
Yep. An IRA you can do, I think, 7,000 now, and a simple you can do 16.
Yeah. So it's more. It gives you a better opportunity to do that, and it was simple.
Yeah.
Fee structure is low, right? I mean, there's like a.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, Wealth Rabbit, we're going to charge $25 a month plus $2 an employee to start. If you do a 401k, you're looking at a couple thousand minimum to to have the setup. Yeah. So, it's simple.
And especially if you're a younger business, keeping whatever fee structure is being charged very low is exceptionally important.
Yeah.
So it's very good, I think, for small and young.
Yeah, it's going to be a couple $100 to administer, and hopefully it's saving you time. It takes you 5 minutes to set up, get your employees onboarded, you get them in good investments, because that's important too. Is part of it's a benefit for the employees, and you want your employees, like most people are not saving for retirement. Your employees are making whatever they're making. You're helping them save for retirement, and you're contributing to that.
And that's why when we set mine up, you could set it up either as a match or a contribution. And so it was important for
So Brian does a 2% to anybody. Everyone in the company gets 2%, which is very rare. Most people do the 3%, but you have to be contributing.
But that gets them. Everybody in there is now. They have something in the account. They can start investing. They can start learning. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and that's nice, like, for your employees. It's like, hey, you care about them. Like, hey, I'm giving you 2% out of my, I don't have to give you 2%.
I mean, aren't we supposed to as employers? I mean, I know, like, that's kind of an old school thing, right? Employers,
are you
pension plans,
I would say you should. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why this country's kind of gone to hell is, the employer, it's all been about revenue and money, and they've forgotten about the employee. And the employees, therefore, don't care about the employer. And when you get bad people working at you, because they, I mean, I was taught basically like, hey, the employer doesn't care about you. Why should you care about them?
I think
that's not the way it should be.
It's a good thing about small business, right?
Yeah.
It's because you're intimately involved in your employees.
Yeah, when you work for a big company, it's like, they don't care about me. But yeah, if you work for Brian, you can tell based on this conversation, like you care about your clients and you care about your employees.
Yeah. The other thing was, can you choose which investments? And, you hear horror stories about, well, you get into this investment or that investment and the fees are atrocious and stuff like that. So the one that we selected was a low-cost index funds.
Yeah.
And so that gave me another comfort level that, hey, you're backed by.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't want to be in mutual funds that are charging you 1.5%, or like you said, some product that's terrible that's not tracking the market. And yeah, that's a lot of what we're doing at Wealth Rabbit. That's what we see. It's like I see clients all the time, and we're like, "What are you in? Like this is so bad. Like your investment advisor, like they're not a fiduciary.
Yeah,
and like part of like Adam and myself, we are fiduciaries, which means we have to put the client in front of ourselves, and like we have to put you in good stuff, what we would put ourselves in.
I think that's important, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to sell your employees down the river, right? With a lot of high fees. So
yeah, well, and you want their stuff to grow. Like that's the whole point. Like they need money for retirement. You want them in good stuff so they'll be better off when they retire.
And I think it just from an employee's, they're gonna actually contribute. Well, do I have to put in anything? No, you don't have to put in anything. And you're going to contribute? Yeah.
Right.
That gives them a peace of mind, even at 2%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a nice peace of mind, and they can contribute. I don't know how much.
16,000. It's a dollar amount. 16,000.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a huge deal.
What do your employees say? Like, have they said anything?
Yeah, some like realize it later on down the road. Like, what? Huh? And they look back, and it's been a few years, and they've got a pot of money in there.
Yeah, they got 10, 20,000 bucks, and they're like, "Oh, this is nice." Yeah,
yeah, thank you.
That they wouldn't have had.
Yeah, it's a fantastic
growing
benefit.
tax free.
But it's also a recruiting tool. We have an IRA. We have that.
Yeah.
Where a lot of small businesses maybe they don't. But it really doesn't cost the business a ton of money to offer this benefit. Talking about Wealth Rabbit being $25 a month and a per user fee.
Yeah.
I mean, and then of course there's the match, whatever but it's really not. It's a nice benefit, but it's really not onerous on the business's finances. It's a benefit that you can offer, that you can get a lot of traction from. That's probably the right thing to do.
Because it's a lot more money to recruit somebody. Like you said, the key is employee retention. Like if someone lasts 6 months and then you have to train someone again, that costs you way more than a 2% match.
Oh yeah, a ton more, more.
And do all simple IRAs have traditional and Roth options, or is that
so? Roth is new for a simple. It used to just be traditional. Roth is brand new in 2024. No one knows how it's going to implement, but we are planning on having that. Probably won't be till 25.
Wow.
So yeah, we're excited about that.
Yeah.
The Secure Act,
Because that's
added that.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. So, and that's a benefit that people can have if they're making contributions, because the employer contribution is going to be
The employer
traditional.
contribution can now also be Roth,
Wow.
but that's also a little bit more complicated. But yeah, the benefit, if you're young and you're in a low tax bracket, like a Roth, so you don't get a tax deduction now, but it grows tax free. And when you take it out, you don't have to pay tax. So that's a great option for employees.
Right.
I'm myself, I'm 37. I do all Roth.
Right.
We have a 401k, but I do all Roth because I think that's the best option.
Right.
Can you do Roth and simple?
In a simple,
Yeah,
you can.
Roth
That's
in a traditional.
yeah, you can do, but so you can do up to 16,000, and you can split it however you want. So a lot of people will do half and half, just hedging their bets where they're going to be tax bracket wise later. Yeah, you can do up to 16, and you can split up however you want. Brian might be our first test case. He might get it for free to test it out.
Like free.
I knew you'd like that. You might be customer number 1.
That'll work. Let's sign. Let's go.
That's just because Jason didn't want to get a check from you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to have you have to pay by check. I'm like, oh, just do it for free. That's not.
Too much
We're not
trouble.
dealing with that.
Free sounds good, but we can take a check.
Let's transition to a little bit of personal stuff. You have particular hobbies other than the trombone?
Well, it's not anymore.
Not anymore with the trombone.
I like to run.
Yeah?
Pretty much anything outside.
All right.
But I really like to run.
You have a particular routine or group that you work with, or you
Just like to
personal,
run.
running?
Just after a hard day's work, go out and get a few miles in. I love trail running. The Greenway is just fantastic resource for our area.
yeah.
Get out there and enjoy.
Are you still on the
woods.
school board?
No, I
You're off
rolled
there.
off. Yeah, so now I
Good
can't
for
get
you.
running.
What other?
He was an elected official. You have a official guy here.
Okay.
Honorable, the Honorable
I
Murphy.
don't know that was honorable.
Was it honorable? That was an honorable
Yeah,
word.
you got to be a judge for honorable, right? Clerk of court.
Yeah.
I don't think they give.
No, they call
honorable to-
congressmen are the honorable.
Well, Congress is Congress. School board. I don't think I ever got
Just
called
Mr.
the honorable. Mister, yes. That's a good one.
Yeah, you probably got called a lot of different things
I
on the
did.
school board.
I did.
God
Yeah.
bless you. That might be the worst elected official person.
Probably not. No, I mean, I think some of my other friends are
County
in the-
council. There's some bad local ones. I feel
Yeah.
you hear some stuff.
Yeah, but
God
that was
bless
during
you.
I was also on the school board during the pandemic, so.
Oh, that was like the worst time to be on it.
Yeah, I don't know that you can really judge my experience.
that's
and say
true.
that that's going to be a normal experience. So.
Wow. What other volunteer work do you do?
Right. Well, more recently, I've been doing mission trips to Guatemala.
Cool.
So this is through my church, Good Shepherd in Charlotte, and the mission organization there locally is Give and Teach, which the founders are also in Fort Mill, and one of them teaches in the Fort Mill schools.
Nice.
So they have a mission center down in Guatemala, El Pino, in the Santa Rosa district of Guatemala.
Okay.
And they host teams mostly during the summer to go out into the outlying villages and build homes for folks who don't otherwise have a home. And you're talking about a corrugated metal structure is what they have with the dirt floor.
Gotcha.
And
So you're doing construction work on these missions?
yeah, it's
or are you doing- okay.
construction
I
work.
was like,
Everybody
they need
builds.
your attorney work. I didn't know
No,
if they need
everybody builds.
Okay.
And so it's not a house like we would say is a house here,
right.
but it's fantastic for what these people have after we're there, and it's just so heartwarming. Since started that in 22, and just got back from a couple weeks ago, and I got to go with my whole family. So that was
very
really
cool.
special to be able to go with the whole family and build a house.
Any final thoughts or other advice you would give to other attorneys or somebody thinking about maybe starting their own firm?
Yeah, I think you talk about what is the number one complaint for lawyers, right? And it statistically, it's they won't return my phone calls, right? I can't get a phone call back from my lawyer, and it's especially when you're starting out, because when you're starting out, you're going to be able to respond pretty quickly. But what happens when you get busier? And it's putting those systems and processes in place so that no matter what, somebody from your office is returning that phone call, email, text message, whatever it is that same day. That's very important.
Yeah.
And so you got to develop that, though. You got to develop that in your people, in your staff, and you've got to develop into your systems so that it doesn't fall through the crack.
Right.
Because the one time it falls through the crack, and you're going to have an angry client, and you might not even know it. So developing those systems is probably the most important part.
Thanks for coming by. We appreciate you stopping by the Bandit Room. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for joining this episode of the Bandit Room. Stick around next time, and we'll see what we talk about.
Bandit Room is a production of Span Enterprises, located in sunny Rock Hill, South Carolina. We've been developing, supporting, and growing successful IRS e-filing and business management solutions since 2010. Go to spanenterprises.com now to learn more. The views and opinions expressed in the Bandit Room are those of the guests, and do not necessarily reflect or state the opinions of Span Enterprises. No information should be considered as tax, legal, or other professional advice.